Welcome, everyone. Look forward to summer. I think we skipped our quick spring. It feels like it's going to go straight to summer here as we ebb and flow between these pretty chilly winter, I feel like winter nights, but good to see everyone, and the sun came out just as we were coming in, so hopefully folks got here safely. We're going to go ahead and proceed with our agenda tonight, and ask that Mr. Hinkle give us an invocation, which will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. We would ask that you stand as we recite our pledge. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hinkle.
If we may bow our heads for a minute, please. Lord, we ask for your countenance and blessings upon this meeting tonight. Please guide and direct this council into making the right decisions that are not only pleasing in your sight, but in the best interest of our Troutman citizenry. We ask that you be with those that are not feeling very well at this time for one reason or another. We ask that you be with them and bring them comfort if it be thy will. We ask that you be with those in other parts of the world that are facing aggression and war, and be with those folks that are defending their freedoms as best they can, and bring them peace as soon as possible. And these and all other things that you see that we may need, we ask your countenance and gracious blessing. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkle. Thank you all for joining us in our pledge. Council, at this time, you have your agendas in front of you. Are there any adjustments to tonight's agenda? Swat, thank you. If not, Council, I'll accept the motion to approve our agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve our agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made, receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on down our agenda to our consent agenda. We've got 4 sets of minutes, scheduled public hearing dates for a couple of annexation requests, or 3 annexation requests, budget amendment, and the adoption of a resolution regarding a grant for wastewater capacity improvement project. Council, this is the consent agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the consent? And if not, I'll accept the motion to approve our consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve our consent agenda.
Is there a second? Motion is made, receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move to item 3, which is introductions, recognition, and presentations. We've got one presentation of funds for autism. Mr. Smith.
Mr. Mayor, with all these people, Chip is a little microphone scared.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
If please, all those in attendance, we would like to thank all the volunteers we had at our Second Chance Prom. We've got some pictures posted up on the screen for all to see. It was a wonderful inaugural event we had. Council Lady Harris was there and absolutely had one of the best pictures of the night, if I may remind some of you all, with her husband, of course. But we did have a great event that night. A lot of people came together to make it a success for our first one. We look forward to the next year's event already. It was held April 2nd, and it, of course, was a fundraiser to benefit autism. The town, with the suggestion of some of the volunteers that put it on, suggested that the proceeds go toward two different programs. One of them was Acing Autism. Program Director Julie Coughlin. Acing Autism is on a mission for children with autism to grow, develop, and benefit from social connections and fitness through affordable tennis programming, uniquely serving individual needs while filling a national void for this growing and worthy population. The second one is Exceptional Children's Assistance Center, ECAC, PTI Manager Amy Combs. ECAC is an organization dedicated to families and children of all backgrounds. Their mission statement is clear. ECAC affirms the right of all individuals from all backgrounds and cultures, with or without disabilities, to an appropriate education and other needed services. They know that students of color with disabilities and their families are acutely vulnerable in dangerous ways. At this time, Chip, if you will, or any of the representatives here, if you will, please come up and present checks, and I'm sure the council would like to also have a photo op, please. Okay. Let the mayor hand that check. He's good with those.
I'll take the 50 on the again.
Thank you. This was a personal and professional blessing. So
Yes, ma'am. Please feel free to take the microphone.
I
Make...
want to.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I will. Thank you very much for this opportunity and for the event. And now that I have a better feel for what it is and what it can be, we are totally going to pack that house next year. I'm going to get a better dress. I'm going to bust the moves. The folks that were there that night, they looked fantastic. They were having a great time. Everybody was super friendly. I know we were competing with a big old basketball game that was dual playing on the screen. But I have been a resident of Iredell County for, oh my gosh, I guess about 23 years now. I live just down the road. Have a son with autism. He works at the Troutman Lowe's. Got all of our services through Iredell County, from early intervention to special education to working with Iredell County's vocational rehab. But this organization that I work for, ECAC, we are just a phenomenal, diverse group of parents. We're all parents of children with special needs. And what we do every day is just help families find their voice, use their lived experience to impact systems that make decisions about children's education, help folks understand their rights. I'm looking at the agenda and you see all the little lingo and the GS and all that. If you ever look at special education, it's full of all the general statutes and regs and provisions. It's tough stuff to digest. And so we break it down for families, help them to advocate for their child, make informed decisions, and everything that we do is at no cost. And so having something like this, it just makes us able to continue the work. So thank you. I get emotional because it means a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt and Mr. Smith, for organizing, working with the organizations to make this happen. I know it's important in our community, and we need to continue to highlight it for those who are with autism and trying to integrate into our community. So again, thank you for doing that. With that, I will move on into our public comments. The public is invited to address the council with comments or concerns. The public is invited to 3 minutes. I will stress 3 minutes. Be respectful of your neighbors. Please sign in at the podium, and You're required to abide by Policy 51, governing comments to the public at town meetings. We also have folks who are listening or watching live. And so I'll ask Mr. Barger if there's any comment live.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We also ask that folks submit comments or can submit comments via email to our clerk. I'll ask. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to make public comments to council tonight? Okay. All right. Please state your name and sign in, please.
Hi, my name's Johnny Edwards. And I just wanted to comment on something and plant a seed. I'm not asking for anything. But we've got a lot of development going on in town. And some people think it's good and some people think it's bad, and that's where you're coming from as to what it is. As we watch the news each day, we see interest rates rising. We see first-time home buyers locked out of homes. We see the interest rate's going to continue to rise. On a $400,000 house, the interest rate that we've currently had has added about $180 to $200 a month to a payment. So that's pretty big. So for all these houses, coming up on probably 6,000 now by the time we'd look at Barium Springs, for all these houses, there's several developers in the area that are clear cutting. If you go out Perth Road right now or Autumn Leaf Road, you'll see a lot of dust and no trees. If the housing market turns down and they stop building, I would ask that future, obviously we can't do anything in the past, but I would ask that in the future, as we approve these permits and as we approve additional zoning, that we also put something in there that requires them, if after a certain amount of time, and I'm not an attorney, the town has an attorney on staff that you could probably figure it out, that they would be required to overseed that property. Otherwise, enjoying Lake Norman naturally is going to be enjoying Lake Norman muddily. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if, was that Edward or Edwards?
Edwards, E-D-W-A-R-D-S.
Council and Mr. Edward, just so you know, a couple things about your comments. Staff, by direction of council, are already doing a couple things. One, you're absolutely correct by the, as you said, things in the past. Planning and department and staff are already combined, we are on the same page, of trying to address the clear-cutting issues. We as council and the planning director and I have not been in favor of that for some time. So we are trying to address that already with ordinances to stop that from going forward in the future. Thank you very much for your comment on that. We are on the same page. The second part of what you said, and I don't want to use a specific example, but we have also, the planning director and I have noted several sites already. Iredell County oversees when these projects are going on. I see former Councilman Paul Bryant here, and I can tell you he can also attest from his time on council, this is not something that has just came up for discussion. It has been discussed with council's directions to us previous that we have asked the county, and it is part of their permits under the soil, that once soil is disturbed, they should be supervising how this is straw put back in place or some things put there so that it does not do just as you described. So we are working in conjunction with the county to make sure not just when a project stalls or, as you pointed out, that they make whatever happens to it, but we certainly are trying to work more diligently so that something like that does not happen on a more negative impact than it already is. Because it does concern us, and we want to stop it from getting worse. And actually, we have a couple projects now that we feel are not in compliance with the current standards that they should be. But thank you for pointing that out, and we want you to know that we agree.
All right, thank you.
Could I make it, are we closed? Can I comment?
I will allow you to comment.
Thank you. My name is Alan Hales. I was going to kind of keep my mouth shut
Please sign
until
in,
this
Alan.
subject came up.
Alan, please sign in.
Oh, okay. Speaking of dust, if staff could provide a contact, a specific contact for these erosion issues, I guess Iredell County,
That's correct.
that would be very helpful. We hit a spell a couple of weeks ago. I live about 200 yards as the crow flies from the old Murdoch farm. Somehow I can't keep, I just got to call it Murdoch Farm. Because it was there forever. There was a day when I had to come, there was a time when, like for 5 days in a row, I had to come home and vacuum the swimming pool because, and I have photographs, the bottom of the pool literally was covered with red silt. I got a neighbor, Joe Laffin, who lives within the property in Russell's old house. He could show you some videos and photographs that would really, nobody needs to live that way. I appreciate last meeting, the board took some action on mud in the streets, and I appreciate that. And I know you're not responsible for soil erosion, but wind erosion is a big problem, just as much as water caused rainfall or whatever. Now, as far as I can tell, walking around a little bit out there, I can see there are no measures other than silt fence for any kind of erosion control on this property. And I realize I'm not talking to the right people, but I just want to make the board aware. And if sometimes I have trouble fumbling like the Iredell County website, and then I got to go here and I got to go there, and I don't end up with the right person that I need to talk to. So if staff or someone could provide that, that'd be very helpful.
Matthew Todd, Iredell County, is the supervisor for that department.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into new business. First item is a rezoning request. CZRM 2201, Touche LLC, Troutman Towns. It's a request for conditional zoning of the property located at the west side of Southeast Way near the intersection of Highway 21. The pins are referenced here on your agenda. It's my understanding the applicant has requested a 1-month referral, but I'll turn it over to Ms. Hare for an explanation.
Yes, this item was heard by the planning board last month. It did receive a recommendation at that time of denial by both staff and the planning board. The main reason for that was given for denial was the density. It did not meet what the land use plan subscribed for the property of 3 to 4 units per acre. So I believe the applicant is looking to see if they can make some changes to the site plan and bring it in compliance with that ordinance. So they have asked for a month deferral.
Okay. I think as you stated, they're prepared to make the changes to try to come into compliance, and that was the primary issue with the planning
Yes, sir.
and zoning. Okay. Council, you've heard from Ms. Hare. Again, our decision to move forward with this deferral, I would request if planning and zoning has had an opportunity to hear it, there's going to be some substantial changes to it, that they be allowed to make some review of it before we make a decision. but it's at your pleasure to allow this deferral or not. Is there a motion regarding this request?
Mayor, may I ask a question of Ms. Harris before?
Sure.
Obviously, I'm sure you had many discussions with the developer of that proposed site, Southeast Way. Did they take your recommendations, or did they just go ahead in spite of your recommendations and put forth hoping to get something past P and Z, and then now they're saying, oops, I'm sorry, pause, hit the pause button? I just want to see why there's this delay, knowing what we were probably asking for, knowing what the land use plan is there for that. I'm sure, you had that discussion with them. Did they ignore that suggestions, that they stick within confines of our strategic plan and land use plan, or have they just gone ahead and done what they wanted and it didn't work with P and Z, and now they're going back and saying, oops, mea culpa, let me look at it again? I mean, what's the situation? What led up to this?
We did, whenever we receive development proposals, we always have meetings with the developers. We sit down with them, we share with them what our land use plan calls for on the property. We have discussions about their proposals. We typically give them recommendations of things that we think, especially on conditional zonings, that we think would improve the site plan, that would make it a better project for the town. And we did do that with this applicant. I guess they had a number in mind, and they did move forward with the proposal. We did meet with them and tell them that we were not going to recommend approval of that 165 units. So they were aware of that when they went to planning and zoning. And then they went through that process and did not get the support they needed there. So I think that at that point is when they realized, well, I think we need to go back to the drawing board.
Mr. Mayor, based on just what I heard, it appears that we ignored conversations with our planning director and advice. And as again, they're saying now, mea culpa, let me go back and hit the reset button. So I make the motion that we deny the requested 1 month deferral.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to deny the 1 month referral. I'm going to look for some counsel here from the manager and our attorney. Denying that referral would then go ahead and put it on the agenda tonight.
Well, it was advertised for a public hearing, so the public hearing is on. Your published agenda, it's really a mixed message, because your agenda does talk about the applicant requesting a 1 month deferral. I don't see public hearing on the agenda. It was advertised. And I don't know if the developers are here. If they're not, and I don't know what communications there were about the town, I would, from a legal standpoint, it would probably be better to defer it or send it to planning and zoning, because I think that they may have some issues then with due process.
Okay.
Well,
And
I
Mr.
understand it, and I don't want to put us in legal jeopardy, don't misunderstand me, but, requested means requested, which means, we can accept, or we can determine, or we can deny. But again, if your advice is to defer it, then I will certainly listen to counsel's advice and withdraw my motion. But I'm a little disturbed, shall we say, or concerned, I should say, that, we've gotten to this point because they didn't seem to have a good faith discussion with our staff. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Hall.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, as to your sentiments. The only thing I will add to what the planning director said in our initial meetings with these folks, I indicated that the number that they were wanting to build was certainly greatly exceeded the number that our UDO allowed. They basically redesigned what product they was wanting to present They were hoping to purchase additional property, as I recall, and basically offer a more quality product, but redesign, and was going to come back. I did not speak to him after 2 conversations where I told him the numbers exceeded, but I do agree, of course, with the planning director. We stayed consistent with the numbers were too high. However, of course, our legal counsel, under the way this was advertised, and as the mayor stated when he read this as the way it is on our agenda, due to the statute, and of course our town attorney can correct me as our legal process, but due to the substantial change in the application, I certainly think our most appropriate action would be is to defer them back to the planning and zoning with a new plan, because it will be a significant change. Even if they do come in compliance, it would be a significant change versus what they have sent to us, which then gives them a chance to come into compliance if they so choose, and or to withdraw their application completely, one of the two, and that's their choice. But at this point, they certainly are not in compliance with what the staff feels is the UDO rules that we have in place. But I do agree with our attorney. We have 2 different messages here, and we have not, even though it was advertised as on the agenda, it's also put that they have requested a deferral. But if they are going to become in compliance, getting back before the planning and zoning, I think is the most appropriate course of action.
That hearing from town manager and our town attorney, I will withdraw my motion and make the motion that our town manager just stated to refer this back, grant them the 1-month deferral, and that they start again with planning and zoning hearing before them before it comes back before council.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to refer this deferral rezoning request back to planning and zoning for a 1-month deferral. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Motion is made, received a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an annexation request, AX 2204, non-contiguous. Applicant is 42 North Development LLC, Kathy Godley, and Piedmont Lane Co. LLC, Howard Bryant, 0.47 acres, portions of a couple of pins there on Lexus Drive. I will now declare this public hearing open and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is a request for annexation. The applicant, there's 2 applicants on this request. It's 42 North Development and Piedmont Land Co. Again, I said the applicant is Piedmont Land Co. LLC. The acreage is 0.47 acres, or it's around half an acre. The property in question is located off of Lexus Drive near exit 42. There's a map on your screen. The property that we're considering is highlighted in red. As you can see, it is a contiguous annexation, and the applicant, this is a contiguous voluntary annexation request. Staff would recommend approval. The council consider approval this evening.
And Ms. Hare, I have non-contiguous on my agenda. Is that not accurate?
I apologize. You are correct, because
Okay.
this is a satellite area. It is non-contiguous.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions for Ms. Hare? Okay. Anyone from the public like to comment or speak regarding this annexation request? Okay. Hearing none, I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, we will now consider the approval of ordinance 0922 titled an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Troutman, North Carolina non-contiguous. Is there such a motion regarding the approval of this ordinance?
So move, sir.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any question or comment regarding the approval of the ordinance? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Next item is a rezoning request, RZ 2202, Piedmont Land Co. LLC, Howard Bryan, located on the west side of Charlotte Highway, south of exit 42, Lexus Drive. And again, the pins are referenced in your agenda. The request is to rezone 0.47 acres from Iredell County General Business to Town of Troutman Highway Business. I will now declare this public hearing open and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
I'm gonna need a little bit of assist. Oh, there we go. Mr. Mayor, this is a rezoning request. Unlike other rezonings that we typically hear, this is not conditional. This is the the rezoning portion of the annexation that we just heard. The applicant, again, is Piedmont Land Co. The property is located on the west side of Charlotte Highway. It's directly behind the Pilot truck stop. The site's approximately half an acre in size. It's a portion of two larger parcels with split jurisdictions. Currently, the zoning on the property is Iredell County General Business. It's located in the county zoning jurisdiction, so an annexation was required before we could consider rezoning of this parcel. The request is to zone the property to Troutman HB, which is highway business. And again, this is a straight or traditional zoning request, so there's no proposed use of the property at this time. So we need to take into consideration when approved, the property is, when it is developed, it will be required to meet all regulations of the Troutman UDO. Again, here is an aerial photograph showing the location of the property highlighted in red. As you can see, it's a small triangular piece directly behind that Pilot truck stop at the end of Lexus Drive. This is the current zoning map for the town. The area in orange is currently highway business, which is what the rezoning request is for. The yellow area is Iredell County, unincorporated, and you can see the location of the property in question there. Highway business per our UDO is a zoning classification that's basically designed for retail and service uses that serve a larger trading area. They're typically located near interchanges or along major thoroughfares, where they basically attract customers from not only inside Troutman but outside as well. This is a copy of our future land use map, which comes from our strategic plan. As you can see there, the land use of this property is shown as interchange commercial, as are all the other properties around the site. The definition of that is very similar to the HB zoning. These two kind of go hand in hand. These properties are typically located near freeway interchanges, as well as along major thoroughfares. These is an area designed for commercial as well as industrial areas, and those can also be nearby. Our planning board did hear this at their last meeting. They unanimously recommended approval. I have provided a copy of their statement of consistency and reasonableness, just so the board and the audience can see this evening what that statement was. Staff is also recommending approval. We feel that the Troutman land use map contained within the strategic plan recommends this site and its environs to be developed for interchange commercial. We feel that highway business fits this definition. We also feel that the property is in close proximity to exit 42, right off the I-77 interchange. And the majority of the properties in the area are zoned for commercial use, so this will be consistent with adjacent properties. Both of the parcels that are contained in the parcels are contained within Troutman and Iredell County zoning. So we feel like bringing this into the town, annexing it, giving it a town zoning classification will clean up some boundary issues in that area. So these are the reasons that staff and the planning board are recommending approval this evening. Council has several options tonight. You can approve the rezoning as requested. You can rezone to a different district if you choose. You can table this item, or you can choose to deny it. That is the end of staff's presentation. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Hare regarding this rezoning request from council?
I have a question. We have in the strategic land use plan.
Yes, sir.
Or the future land use plan, I should say, right? Interchange commercial. You did-
Yes.
Right, you did state that highway business, which is what the requested zoning is for, fits in to the interchange commercial designation. Could you clarify for that for me? How does it fit in, and
Sure.
why not just go interchange commercial?
Good question. The reason is we do not have an interchange commercial zoning classification. Interchange commercial is a land use designation, and the HB zoning district is really what is the zoning classification that fits that land use. So the two kind of go hand in hand, is a
Okay.
land use and a zoning classification.
Okay, so the fact that we don't have the
It-
zoning that we predict to have in the future, this is the most analogous.
Well, land use a lot of times is different than zoning. And in a land use category, you could have more than one zoning classification. You may have a highway business classification that fits within that land use category. You could have a business center classification that fits in. So a land use designation and a zoning designation are very different. They're meant to kind of work together.
Okay.
So I apologize if I caused any confusion there by saying that, but highway business and that interchange commercial really are a zoning district and a land use that just fit together.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ms. Hare by council? Okay. Any questions or comment from the public regarding this rezoning request? Okay. If not, I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, you have heard from Ms. Hare regarding this rezoning request. We will now consider approval of ordinance 1022 titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County General Business to Town of Troutman Highway Business. Is there such a motion regarding the approval of this ordinance?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 10-22, titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County General Business to the Town of Troutman Highway Business.
Motion's on the floor to approve the ordinance 1022. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the consideration for selecting,
Consistent statement.
sorry, I did miss that. Thank you, Mr. Harris, keeping me straight. Ms. C. Council, last thing we need to do is regarding the rezoning of the RZ 2202 is a statement of consistency. Is there such a statement?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna defer to the Harrises down here.
Harris has got it. Rezoning to highway business is consistent with the 2035 future land use map to allow appropriate highway-oriented commercial development at this location. The request is consistent with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in areas of Troutman where it is appropriate.
Motion is on the floor regarding our statement of consistency, that it is consistent. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is the consideration of selecting an auditing firm for fiscal year 2023, which begins on July 1st. I will turn it over to Mr. Justin Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a typo, and that's probably my fault. That should be fiscal year 2022.
That's why I specifically
That's
said
why you
that.
were looking at me that way.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So we received 3 proposals from auditing firms to perform our new fiscal year 22 audit. And the town manager and myself felt like the most qualified firm for that. They're very experienced. They have performed over 100 governmental audits this past year. So we feel like they're very qualified, and that is Thompson, Price, Scott, Adams and Company, and they're out of Whiteville, North Carolina. So it's our recommendation to approve the bid to that firm.
So motion's on the floor to approve. The firm is Scott Adams,
Thompson, Price, Scott, Adams and Company.
Thompson, Price, Scott Adams and Company, okay? And we can assure they can do our audit this year.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Just where they're located again, I forgot.
They're out of Whiteville. They have a couple
Okay.
of different locations that they have across the state, but
Okay. Any questions for our finance director regarding their recommendation for the firm? Okay. If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve this firm as our firm for our 2022 audit. Is there such a motion?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made. Receive the second. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consideration for appointments to our Land Use Map Advisory Committee. Turn it over to Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the direction of council, staff met with appointed committee members George Harris and Jerry Oxer and created a list of potential land use map advisory committee members. Staff is requesting that the following individuals be considered and appointed. Former Councilman Paul Bryant, former Planning and Zoning Board Chairman Leighton Getzinger, Mike Todd, Helen Harris, Karen Van Fleet, Rydell Cowan, Sr., Wes Edmiston, Aaron Larson, Mary Starks, Parker Nicholson, and Mark Michelle.
Okay.
We have spoke to all but one county of those committee members, and all of them have expressed a willingness to serve if appointed by you all.
Okay, great. Council, you've heard as far as the recommended members for the Land Use Map Advisory Committee that we definitely need to look at updating, and appreciate those who are willing to serve. Is there a motion regarding the slate that has been presented?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve the advisory committee that has been chosen.
Thank you. Is there a second?
No second.
Motion is made. Receive the second. Any other question or comment?
I do have a question.
Yes.
That brings the total to 11, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm just happy.
I'll save that for.
I'm happy. Well, I'm just happy it's an odd number, and we can.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did discuss, for everybody's knowledge, we did discuss the fact that due to so many members, there would be some committee meetings that some of these persons would not be able to be there. That's one of the reasons why we went with a larger number when the committee members met, so that we would hopefully have more than a few that could be present, understanding that there may be times that a vote would need to be taken, and with some being absent, there may be, to that point, an even number present instead of an odd number, at which point, hopefully, somebody would just abstain from a vote if needed. But we did want a larger number present due to people's work schedules and other commitments, so that they could be more than a few in attendance at these meetings.
Great. Thank you. Any other question or comment?
Who's this nefarious character, Paul Bryant, over there? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Do we need to strike his? Oh, he's actually here, so I apologize for that.
And I also would like to point out that, of course, the planning director, Lynn Hare, is a part of this committee from the staff side.
Great.
I think it'd be good for her to point out again her schedule of how she hopes to get this done in the next 6 months. I mean, she has a pretty aggressive program that by October, we should see a final results. So
Yes, sir.
hopefully that was what I think makes it good, is it's something we're not spending a long time, but try to just update and get it correct.
Get it done. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I think that's a very valid point in putting out there also. It is an aggressive timeline. However, due to all of the projects that are before you all and coming before staff, it is a necessity to meet with what's there, and that's one of the reasons some of these individuals were chosen for the committee, is the time frame and commitment that they can dictate to such an important task.
Great.
I wish you luck, Ms. Hare, Director Hare.
All right, with that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item is item 6, which is elect officials, comments, reports. Start with Town Council. I'll start to my right. Mr. Oxer.
Well, this is my shortest meeting to date until
next.
of course I like to jinx it, right? But it's great to see so many people in attendance tonight. This is something that, at least in my short stint here, has been lacking. So I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming, even if it's just to observe or maybe learn something, or just thank you. I'll encourage you to keep coming. We do have just our last agenda item there, the updating the land use plan map. I'm very, very excited to work with fellow Councilman Harris, as well as staff, as well as the list that we just approved. I think it's necessary. I think it's going to be a great thing for our town, and we will have. That's the thing. Ms. Hare does have a very aggressive timeline. It's something that we need to get done, and we will need the public's input. There will be two, correct? Right, public sessions to come in so you can see, what we're looking to do. We want your input. We're going to meet with business owners as well in the area. We want their input, right? And hopefully we can kind of set the stage for the next several years of development here in Troutman. So
I don't want to be a small place, we don't want no crime, no gang members. We want to be a safe place, small.
I'm with you. I understand, yeah. But I look forward to it. And again, thank everybody for coming, and I hope to see you in the future. So, and that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll skip Mr. Hinkle, Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank the citizens that came out for the Earth Day cleanup and Chip Smith for coordinating and putting it together. Hopefully we made a little dent in making our community a little nicer and a little cleaner. So again, thank you for everybody that came out. And something that's pretty special to me, being a retired police officer, it's Police Officer Appreciation Week, and I think tomorrow is actually the day. So I want to thank our great police department with our chief. And if our citizens or residents see a police officer, whether it be a state trooper or an Iredell County Sheriff, a Troutman policeman, please thank them for their service. They're the ones that are protecting our citizens in the United States. And I know our military does a great job, but these are the boots on the ground police officers and the police women of the United States that protect us and serve us. So I really appreciate it, and please thank them for their service.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
I too wanted to thank all of the police officers. Thank you, Chief Watson and your crew. Your crew is very special to me. Not because they used to stop me all the time when I first moved back, but as Officer Elmo, we became very close. And so now he's at the school and doing big things at the school. So I appreciate your staff. My son really looks up to Officer Elmo. My baby boy, every morning, we get to see Officer Elmer when we're going to the school. So it's good to have those relationships. You know, our town is so small, and I still consider us still close. So no matter how many people move here, I still consider this a small town, and we'll keep those relationships, continue to keep those relationships moving forward. The other thing that I wanted to mention was thank you, Ms. Combs, is that Ms. Combs, for coming. I can't wait to see it packed out, the event packed out next year. I enjoyed myself at the event, and I'm glad it was for a great purpose. I didn't get up and dance, but I can't dance, but but it was a great event, so I thank you for that. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we have several events coming up in the town. I can't wait to see everybody at our events, and I'm looking forward to them and participating myself. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Turn it over to Mr. Harris.
Okay. I had a question, just making sure we're getting this covered to the town manager and our plan director. 2 newspaper articles came out in the last few days, on the 4th of this month and on the 12th at the record landmark, concerning, and 2 schools mentioned specifically with Troutman Elementary and South Iredale being at capacity, or nearing capacity, or some of the Lake Norman High School. And my thing is, I understand we usually, when the developer comes in here, it also gets forwarded to the school board, that what's going on. So, where do we stand? Are they getting that information? I mean, we got several developers coming, but I'm reading that we're already at capacity and they're stopped all this out-of-district students coming in because South Iredale and Troutman Elementary are at capacity. So I was thinking, I thought we were always they were letting us notify us that there was an issue. But we're not getting that word back from the school board?
Well, to be fair, I don't think a lot of people realize, like at South Iredale, for example, you've got students from out of county attending their school. Same thing at Troutman Elementary, same thing at Troutman Middle School. There's out of county students attending those schools. So when we finally, being the town of Troutman, look at those schools, it's an automatic perception that all of our kids are going to those schools, when in reality, some of our town residents, our students that live inside our town limits here, are actually going to schools outside of our town limits as a parent choice. But we do have students from outside of Iredale County attending the schools inside of our town limits. And that's policies that the school board chooses to put in place that happens. They have different districts that allow students from all over the county. Of course, South Iredale being an IB school, that's one of the things that draws children to their campus. And I certainly cannot speak to all of the rules and the procedures that allow students to attend those campus. But if you read the rest of that article and all the caveats, it honestly restricts very little students from still coming to those schools. Because if they already have siblings there, if there's magnet programs already there, if their parents are employees at those schools, et cetera, the only ones that prohibit from people going to those schools are students that don't live in this district. So honestly, it goes back to the old days when most of us went to school. You had to go to the school in the district that you lived in. And that's all that it's really cutting out.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of read, that they were doing away with some of the out-of-district. But I know that we're like, what, 3 or 4 years away from the school on Overcash being completed. And so I would just know that, I knew that we were supposedly, whenever a developer comes through, they also, all that information goes to the school board to get their comment. And I'm just wondering how they let themselves get the capacity down. We already have some development still set, not only just us, but Statesville and Mooresville also.
Their policies, and we, the mayor and I attended a session, as did Statesville and Mooresville and Iredale County, recently attended a strategic planning session with the school board, with the school system and Superintendent James, for that sole purpose of what you're talking about, to plan and to better determine what is the method going forward so that they don't have situations just like this. And that was about 4 weeks ago, Mayor?
Yeah,
is
it's
that
about 4
correct?
weeks ago. Yeah.
To do just that, to answer your question, because they want to make sure going forward, and the school that you're talking about being built, and I'm sorry, I don't recall off the top of my head, but the property for the school, the high school that's supposed to be built now, or next, I should say, that property was bought somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 or 20 years ago. The next school that is to be built afterwards was bought within a couple years of that. To my knowledge, there's not any property that is actively being bought in that type of acreage for the future schools to be built after that. So we have a project that is on target to come to us. The prospective builder has said that they would be a school site available in that the school system may be interested in. But as you are stating, as projects are being built, unless developers of that size say, here's property that should be earmarked for schools, there has to be appropriate planning going forward that does just that. And that is one of the reasons why the mayor and I attended that strategic planning session with the school board and other municipalities in the county for that type. But because of the policies and procedures they had in place, we are the center. And I have told people before, South Iredell High School was so named in 1966 because the policymakers of the county at that time didn't think anything significant was going to be built south of Troutman back in 1966. Boy, has plans changed.
A lot. Yeah, yeah, I'm just curious because I knew that we feed that information to them, and then I read one says they're at capacity. I'm like, what are they doing with the information we sent them?
Yeah, just to add on to what the manager said, we did have an opportunity to meet with Superintendent James and our surrounding municipalities on this specific topic. I think they fully realized the challenges. We were, there were able to share some of the concerns we have with the growth in our area and the lack of, educational outlets. I think they're in a tough spot as well, right? And so they've got land that was purchased years ago. They've got projects that have been, I say, approved, but there's real challenges with starting those projects. You look at inflation today, how much those projects are budgeted for versus where they are today. But clearly they are well informed of what we have kind of on our books, if you will, here in Troutman, as well as our surrounding municipalities.
Well, that's why I thought they do get that information. When a developer comes in, they also go to, that information goes to them. So I was kind of surprised when I saw that we're at that level, that I'm thinking, what happened to the information we sent them?
Yeah, not sure about that, but I can say they're well informed. Thank you.
All we can do is, as been said, is inform the school system. And then it's up to them and the county government, with a little bit of help from the state, to build the schools based on anticipated growth. And that's been a question going back many years in several planners. But they are, I've been assured, are informed. It's just procedure, proper procedure. Anytime we have any kind of a sizable subdivision development coming in that's going to add significant numbers, especially to the school system. I was with the mayor and the town manager at that meeting up at the Cat Center, and to be honest with you, the thing that kept banging around in my head was always the old money problem. Where are you going to get the money? As the mayor said, we're now in a inflationary period. Things are almost doubling year over year in construction. And, hearing what I heard was that there's a challenge. And again, as I said, the money and possible use of American recovery money, and that sort of thing, if it's allowed, that's the fly in the ointment. But it was the meeting almost closed with, it's basically going to be between the school board and the county commissioners that fund the school system, basically fund the school system. All we can do is inform. If we wait, it's kind of like the road system. All we can do is inform NCDOT. What they do next is up to them. I mean, they won't even let us put a sign up on their highway unless we wait 6 months to 12 months to get permission to put up a stinking sign just for safety purposes. And so it's the same thing with the school system. All we can do is inform, ask, and tell them what's coming, and then it's up to them, the county commissioners and the state, to get the resources to build the schools. So I don't have the black and white answer, but you know, it is up to them, you know, to do. And I'm sure they're well aware of it. I'm not saying anything that's not well known, but you know, some folks do say we need to hold up, you know, based on adding to the school system. And you know,
But they have to make that call.
if you do that, if you don't add the kids, then they're never going to expand. So it's, you know, chicken and the egg. You know, same thing with road network. You know, if you don't have the growth, then DOT's going to look the other way and go somewhere else where they do that. You know, a Charlotte or a Raleigh or a Greensboro, where they do. So again, it's a chicken and the egg. It's a head scratcher. But you know, I'm confident that Troutman has done all that we can do in our limited capacity, and it's now up to other people to do their jobs.
Anything else? All right. Mr. Hinkle, anything else?
I just want to say I am tickled to death to see this ad hoc committee concerning looking at our UDO and land use and so forth. Well, I should say land use. UDO directly. And we've got a varied personnel on there. I'm sure there are going to be some nice lively debates, friendly debates, but lively debates. And I'm also glad that we've got one gentleman from the council on there that has been around for a few years and will be offering perspective from that. And then a gentleman that's just joined us, coming in with a fresh new perspective, and somewhere meet in the middle, and as long as the other members. But I'm tickled to death that it's a varied committee. Common term we're hearing now, inclusive. And I think the results, I'm looking forward to the results from what you gentlemen and ladies come up with the next several months, and see if we can't get back to a land use map we can depend on and look at with very few changes midstream down the road. And when we do, then we go back through the process again of updating the land use map. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of this. Thank you.
And then UDO next.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things. I appreciate Mr. Now mentioning Police Appreciation Week and all the work that our police force does for us in our community, and please share our appreciation for your team, Chief, and appreciate all that you do every day in leading the team here. So it's important, and again, we appreciate what you all do. Next is Teacher Appreciation Week. I believe was last week. For those teachers out there, I know it's a tough position to be in, and has been tough these last few years. I appreciate what they do every day in our classroom to ensure that we have the next generation of leaders, both in our community and around the world. I know the county has been struggling a bit in terms of making sure that they have enough teachers, and I want to encourage those who are looking at the profession to continue to do so. Next item is I would like to mention Tourette's Syndrome Awareness Day, which is June 4th, next month. We have recognized Tourette's Syndrome awareness in prior years and recognized June 4th as that day. Again, I appreciate those folks who do the work with their family members, with community, and within groups like the Greater Carolinas Tourette's Syndrome Association to support those in need with Tourette's syndrome. And so hopefully you all will appreciate the work that goes into being supportive for that group, and so I want to make sure that I recognize that as well. I had a couple other things, but I think I'll be stepping on the manager's comments, so I'll leave it up to him, and if he doesn't, then I'll chime in. But this time I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I turn it over to each one of the department directors, there's one of the things that we would like to do as far as business goes, if you council members will allow me. We had to put out a bid process for our wastewater reserve project, which is on the consent agenda this evening that you all passed. And once you all did that, that allows us to then do this portion of business. Our finance director put out for bid the process for consultants who would then be interested in overseeing the project. We did it formally as required by the bidding process and advertised it for a 6-week period. Was that correct? 6 weeks? We only received one bid, which is the consultants that we normally use, West Consultants. They're a very experienced company who has performed a large volume of work for the town in the past, as you all know. And we recommend that the town council approve the bid that West Consultants PLLC has submitted. So at this time, I'm requesting that you all please formalize that by motion and acceptance, please.
So you've heard from the manager. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion that we approve that bid
Okay.
for West Consultants.
Okay. Is there a second? Thank you. Any other question or comment?
So we only got one bid.
Yes, which is during discussion, if I may answer him, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
This time of the year for government type projects, it is sometimes quite common that there's no bids at all. So it's not uncommon that there only be one. There are several projects throughout the state when you're asking for consultants and or bids that there are none being answered. And that's quite common, but we did do it through state standards and advertisement process.
Okay, and so, is there any, I guess, how to ask the question, but I do know you recommend that we prove it, so I guess everyone's happy with it. It's what we expected. You know, if you only get one, I doubt it hits the bullseye.
It's ironic you say Bullseye. Bullseye is a contracting firm that just won a bid for a different contract. However, West Consultants is the engineering firm that we use typically. And the reason we had to put this out for bid complies with the state's process for a project, 1. 2, due to the size of the project and the money threshold, it requires a bidding process. So there's 2 reasons why it required there to be a bidding process. And because of that is why it went out for public bid. The fact that we already have a relationship with them certainly means that we're comfortable and familiar with them. They are familiar and comfortable with us. So that in itself, we're comfortable working with the company. They already are familiar with our personnel and geographically, certainly, to answer your question.
So good, so there should be no surprises then.
Correct.
All right, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
Motion's on the floor, received a second. Any other comment? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes to approve the bid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'll turn it over, as we agreed last month. We thought that it best that several department heads and directors come before council and the public so that they could give brief reports on Thursday instead of doing it at the pre-agenda when most of the public, if they chose to attend a meeting and/or if they choose to watch YouTube, etc., we felt like that people were not getting the chance to see and/or hear from them directly. As we had suggested, if you all had any questions or the public had any questions, they certainly can send them to me or the department heads, and they can be well versed ahead of time to answer those, and that way they can give them in a report. This is not necessarily a time for people to question and answer or banter back and forth with department heads. If there is something that comes up in their report that somebody has a question, feel free to submit them to me or the department head director, and we will follow up later. But this is simply a brief report that they are giving and a summary of activities and information that they would like you all and the public to know.
Thank you.
At this time, I turn it over to Chip Smith. He's got a couple activities that he's got coming up.
Oh,
I'll talk loud. Actually, this,
Need it for you too.
oh, okay. I'm on YouTube now. All right, we have a couple activities coming up. We have a red and blue 5K with the police department and fire and EMS on Saturday at 7 o'clock, and we're going to be at the start the race at the depot, and we'll be running down the Greenway, kind of like the thin line, kind of with the Back the Blue race. And then on May the 21st, we have a party in the park. And then starting.
Calm down, Andy.
They call me John Travolta.
Oh, okay.
That's what they call me. A lot of people have learned, how you learn to dance like that, tell us a little. I got the move. Everybody says I got the move.
And then we're having several sports camps starting on June the 20th in conjunction with South Idaho High School.
Those are kindergarten through 8th grade for the sports youth.
Yes, sir.
Adam?
Right. We just got approval back from the state on our local water supply plan, so that's always a sketchy time of year. You're waiting to hear back from them on that, but that did meet approval and all specifications on that. We're starting to get some interviews set up next week for the new hire, the position we have open, so working on that. No news really on the jetter truck. They're still waiting on a chassis for it, so we're waiting. I met with them yesterday, and we're still waiting on that, so no changes there. Other than that, it's just wide open grounds work. So our summer compliance schedule's underway for water and sewer, so busy time of year for us. So that's kind of what's going on with us.
I will add Public Works is getting the planning house ready, and with the weather, they've been mowing and mowing and mowing. Justin, with our finance?
So, finance isn't as exciting as the other departments, but we've been working on budget basically for the last 6 to 8 weeks, so that's been my main area of concern there. So hopefully we'll be getting that budget wrapped up at our June meeting. And besides that, just standard reports that we're required to file as a government entity, and just trying to improve every day with our processes up front.
Justin, but I
Yes.
just want to say, I know you love your job, and it's important that finances are not exciting.
That's right. That's a good point.
Because when they get exciting,
That's not
some
good.
people get excited. So I appreciate you keeping it where it is. So
Good point.
Thank you.
I would just add, we have administrative position that we're also interviewing for. If not starting the end of next week, it'll be the week after. Planning Department with Lynn Hare.
Well, as I'm sure everyone in this room is aware of, the town we're experiencing a lot of growth. We have issued a great deal of zoning permits. I think I've mentioned this to you all frequently, but we've exceeded the number of permits so far this year that we issued last year. We issued around 300 zoning permits last year, and we've already outpaced that number this year. So I think we're going to have a record year for zoning permits. We also have 3 cases coming before Planning Board at the end of the month. One is a large distribution project on Houston Road. It's around 680,000 square feet of distribution space right at Houston Road and 77. It's on the opposite side of the interstate. We also have a large subdivision D.R. Horton has applied for off of Autumn Leaf Road. We had a community meeting for that. It was well attended. There was a lot of opposition to that project, but they're proposing to build right under 300, about between 250 and 300 homes off of Autumn Leaf. We also received an application for a commercial project, which we're excited about. The group is called Solid Rock. We anticipate there will be a commercial anchor, potentially a grocery anchor, near the Lowe's, just south of the Lowe's, near the charter school. So that's exciting. And all three of those items will be heard by our planning board on the 23rd. So please come out if you're interested in any of those projects. It's a time to get information. It's an opportunity to speak and to be heard by our planning board. All those items get forwarded on to council, and we'll be back here June 9th, and all those items will be on that agenda. As we heard tonight, we're starting our land use plan update process. I want to point out we anticipate holding our first open house or community input meeting sometime in June. So we will be working with the committee very quickly that was appointed tonight on setting a date for that. So we will be getting the word out. We'll be advertising that and hopefully having some drop-ins, or maybe we'll just put some maps up in this room and maybe leave them here for a couple weeks for people who can't be here for the meetings if they just want to stop by town hall. But really looking to get the community's input on those type of things. We also, from a transportation standpoint, we received a grant to draft a new comprehensive transportation plan for the town. We haven't done that in several years. It really needs to be updated, so we were fortunate enough to get some grant funds for that. Andrew, who's our planner, he does our transportation planning, sent some RFQs out. We got 4 responses this week, so we will be reviewing those, and I'm sure bringing those to you all shortly, and hopefully choosing a consultant who can help us with that planning process. But that's it.
Could you just repeat the date and time for the next P&Z meeting?
May the 23rd. In this room, it's a Monday evening. It's 7 o'clock.
7. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask her a question, or are you waiting for the end if people have?
Wait to the end.
I wanted to just update for the instant-based crime stats, which is what the federal government uses to track crime rates. And this is comparing between 2021 and 2022, between January and July. Our total assaults increased to 29 from 12, which is a 141% increase. Larceny offenses was a 107% increase from 14 to 29. And frauds increased 116% from 6 to 13. Part of the reason for this increase has been that we do have a rising crime rate across America right now, but is the reporting, the way I got the Department of Standardized Reporting officers, were basically, it was up to them on, there was not consistent across the board. So crime rate will show some increase due to officers actually documenting and reporting more incidents that they should have been doing. The month of April, officers for the Troutman Police Department responded to 243 calls for service, made 12 arrests, 112 traffic stops, conducted 620 neighborhood patrols, security checks at businesses or residents and schools, and took 39 incident reports. We have a consistent community policing efforts we're trying to do with foot patrols, identifying problems and focus enforcement efforts on them. We have a community engagement program right now for younger children and parents, where the first Monday of every month at the Troutman Library, an officer goes and reads to preschool age children, interacts with their parents. We have the Red and Blue 5K that's coming up, which is both the fire department and police department are doing it. All proceeds go to either the First Responders Children's Foundation or the Firefighters Burn Children's Fund.
That's all the reports we have from each department director within the town. A couple comments that I would like to make. One, as I commented at the agenda meeting Monday, we have several department directors that are on salary, but as I did the timesheets Monday morning, we've got several that average in a 2-week cycle working almost 30 hours above their 40-hour work week. And I'm very appreciative and would just like to note that just because we have salaried people, they're not just working their 40 hours and going home. That means a lot. And I don't want to embarrass the individuals by saying this one and that one. That don't mean that the others are just working 40 hours and going home. Regularly, everybody is exceeding their salaried hours that they are here. Our hourly employees are doing well. I'm appreciative of the work output that we are getting in return. As we approach the budgets, I've had several questions from the public of how does this work and how does that get done. As Justin pointed out, it's a 6 to 8 week process. As you all know, I almost get questions daily from one of you council members about different things in the budget. And just to quickly explain for the public out there, once we had our budget workshop and we addressed to you all the basics of what each department's expectations was as compared to the last couple of years, specifically this current year, and what the needs or expectations was in the future, the differences between the utility side and our normal ad valorem tax size or property tax size of the budget, and the expectations of our needs and our future growth. Our goal is to be zero balanced, and that's what the law says at the end of the year. And you all's directive was to us, of course, is don't dare raise property taxes, and we heard you. But at the same time, if it was a necessity, prove what the necessity is and was with the expenditures that we had. We discussed the hard facts of what were the expenditures, our future growth needs, the infrastructure needs, and then we've had those hard discussions in public. We've had the different discussions as to why we had services over the years that were not being collected for in totality for public knowledge, such as leaf and limb pickup, waste pickup, recycles, that we were only collecting a small portion of the total cost as far as the public goes, as far as you elected officials goes, and then the overall budget. And then when we have future expenditures and needs, where does all of those expenses come from, and where? The needs of the staff to also deal for the future as far as staff goes, and then services to the public. And we have been answering those questions and trying to answer as to the needs on a, if we did it for a monthly cost basis versus property taxes, because at the end of the day, which way does it more effective? We've answered those in public meetings and then showed you all in various scales if we did it this way and hypotheticals versus that way. And then once we come to some form of an agreement back and forth with council and staff, that will be presented for public to see in a hard copy form so that they can review what that budget is. And they will get a chance for public comment period, and everybody gets to see it. It's all open air and visible to the public for everybody to see and question. So if anybody's got any questions about that, we'll certainly be glad to go into more detail. We're excited that we finally got the digital board back up in town. Several people commented in various places about why it took us so long. We didn't. As soon as the old one broke, we immediately ordered a new one and had a contract that was supposed to be fulfilled within 60 days. But just like COVID and what it has done to everybody, there was issues with supply and demand, and one thing after the other with that. But we finally got it back up. We're glad that it's back up. But one of the first things that we noticed is early voting began week before last, and a lot of people going to vote have no clue where to vote. because it's not on that board to tell them it's not at Troutman Baptist Church anymore. Early voting is at Troutman Library for those that are interested, and we would like everybody to know that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the sheriff's department too.
Yes, sir. And also next week, as you all have stated, is Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. We have Bill Pettit was our town officer that went away in the line of duty, the only officer that the town of Troutman passed away in the line of duty. We certainly would like to mention his name during the meeting here, and we hope that everybody will take a moment to remember him, that he did lose his life in the line of duty and paid the ultimate sacrifice. Iredell County Fraternal Order Police will be having a memorial service, and all of our town council is invited, and members of the community as well, to attend that memorial service, and several will be attending it to pay respects for him and his family that will be in attendance, as well as all the other officers from different agencies in Iredell County that gave the ultimate sacrifice while they were on duty protecting lives, including a former sheriff at one time in Iredell County.
It's a dangerous job, really dangerous job.
Yes, sir, it is, Andy. We also would like to remind anybody, as Lynn pointed out, there is a application coming for a anchor business down around exit 42 with a potential grocery store. I have been called at least 6 different times by people that heard various rumors of this and various rumors of that. Folks, we don't like dealing in rumors. When we get things up here, if we answered the phone and emails about every rumor because so-and-so read it somewhere and so-and-so said that, and that's all we would get done. We certainly like to try to answer questions, but sometimes when people make inquiries to us, it is inquiries that we're not allowed to talk about, one, and two, if your neighbor told you something, it may be true, it may not be, but these things as they come to be, all we can tell you is if we know about them, we certainly put it out there. When these customers and businesses allow us to put them out there, we want you all to be as informed with facts as soon as we're allowed to, because we think it's good news that benefits our citizens. We, of course, want it to be out there. But when we are told things that are not true, it's detrimental to our community, and it creates a lot of strife out there that's simply not warranted. But we do hope that this particular project goes through the proper process and that it gets approved, and people will be excited about it. But to tell you which one of these people theorizing that it's going to be 8 different stores, that does anything except waste people's time. Until we know that a project's approved, we don't know. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
One thing, talking about a while ago, being interviewing for Public Works and Administration the next few weeks, how did today go at the Civic Center?
I'm sorry, sir?
Didn't you have, today at the Civic Center, didn't they have an employment seminar?
They did, and we did not get up there for it. It was extremely successful until there was a shooting in Statesville that interrupted some things up there. It's my understanding that one employer hired 20-some people on the spot. They had over 150 prospective employees come through for various jobs, but I was told it was a successful event.
I didn't know, since we were, looking for applications, if
We-
we had an opportunity to get up there.
We did not. We had every intentions of being there, but we did not get to
I
participate.
know Billy Bucket called out town of Troutman as one of the
Oh, yeah.
participants, so that's the reason I asked.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions for Mr. Wyatt? Mr. Farger, I would ask if there's a clarifying question that you want to ask manager.
After the meeting.
Awesome, thank you. With that, any other question or comment by council? One thing I did miss, and I regret, June 4th is a Miles for Matt. I think the Rotary Club at Troutman is putting that on, and I wanted to mention that. Usual, it's been, I don't know how many years now, but actually it's been a fundraiser for a number of years. So I just wanted to mention that. I didn't want to step over something. 13th, okay, thank you. 13 years, so awesome. Young man who was instrumental in our community. His parents were still in our community, and good community citizens. So if you have an opportunity and are looking to get out and get a little exercise, June 4th, come on out for Miles for Matt. It'll be in the ESC Park. With that,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
motion's on the floor to adjourn. Is there a second? I expected to hear everybody say second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Jerry, this is you, so to speak.